So who is the beloved? I am the beloved. The beloved of what? The beloved of God. We are the beloveds of God. And when I look in your eyes, I see the beloved. I see the divinity that you are, the Christedness, if you will, that you are. When I look in your eyes, I see the spiritual truth of you. And I open more fully to the spiritual truth of me. Because I am seeing with my spiritual eyes, and something wonderful happens. A synergy, an energy, a sense of connectedness and oneness takes over. And suddenly, we have a deeper and bigger realization of God. The beloved one, the living one, the living one. And so I have another poem to share with you today because we have a difficult conversation to have. It's been kind of a big week, hasn't it? And I've been wrestling. I've been wrestling with God about some of the events of this week. And so here is a poem by St. Catherine. She was a Dominican nun. She lived, I don't know, 1300s, something like that. Pope Paul VI in 1970 called her the doctor of the church, the conscience of the church. So let's let St. Catherine be our conscience for a moment. No one will begrudge me. I talk about it sometimes with God, all the suffering in the world. Dear God, I have prayed, how is it possible, all the horrors I have seen, all the atrocities you allow us to commit, when you, God, are ever standing so near and could help us? Could we not hear your voice say, no? With such love and power, never again would we harm. And God replied, who would understand if I said that I cannot bear to confine a wing and not let it learn from the course it chooses? I said, but what of a man walking lost in a forest, weeping and calling your name for help, and unknown to him he is headed for a covered pit with sharp spears in it that will maim his flesh when he crashes through the trap? And God replied, yes. Why don't I remove every object from this world that could cause someone to weep? Yes. Why don't I speak in a way that could save a life? I opened my hand, and the infinite ran to the edges of space, and all possibilities are contained therein. All possibilities, even sorrow. In the end, nothing that ever caused one pain will exist. No one will begrudge me. The absolute innocence of all within my creation takes a while to understand. It takes a while to understand. But last week, a young man walked into a school and murdered 17 people. And my heart broke a little. And a community broke a little. And a whole bunch of lives broke a lot. And families are aching with pain right now. A school is traumatized. A community is hurting. Take the sacred breath with me. And this is not the first time this has happened, is it? Churches like ours, churches like the one you are sitting in right now, have experienced this kind of violence. Concerts, public gatherings. This has become the new habit of our nation. And I say it's time we had a healing. How about you? Are you ready for a healing? Me too. You see, what we've been doing so far as we're looking for a healing for this is we've been looking at human solutions. New laws, new ways of doing things, new approaches. We've been looking in the realm of the human condition and what can we change, what can we do? And you know what? We don't agree, do we? We just don't agree. And I don't see any sign that we are going to agree. And so in the human realm, we're just banging our heads against the wall. It's not working. Are we ready for a spiritual solution? Can we step up into a greater idea of what is possible for us in the realm of the human condition? As St. Catherine told us, we learn from the course we choose. But have we? We have chosen a course. Have we learned anything yet? And we live in the infinite realm of all possibility, even sorrow. Here in the human condition. But there is a greater spiritual truth. There is a greater consciousness from which we can begin to address this issue. There is a greater place where we can take a stand, and that is the place of spiritual truth. And the spiritual truth is God is all there is. God is love. The greatest commandment is that we love, and so let's get loving. The way it's looking to me, it's kind of funny because one of the first thoughts I had when I heard the news on Wednesday was, we need a miracle. We need a miracle. And so I've been pondering on that ever since, and because I do this, I went to the dictionary and I looked up the word miracle. And here's what I found. A miracle is something amazing, a marvel. And I read a little further down the page and I learned that the Latin root word for miracle is mirare, which means to be surprised or to look with wonder at. And I read a little further down and it said, see mirror. And so I went and I looked up mirror. And what I learned is that the Latin root for the word mirror is exactly the same word as miracle. See, a mirror is something that reflects, right? A mirror faithfully reflects what we put in front of it. Yes? Have you ever heard this saying? The universe is a mirror that reflects back to us what we think into it. That's kind of a core of our teaching, isn't it? That we live in a universe that corresponds to what we believe and what we think with conviction. That's why we do an affirmation every Sunday. The universe is a mirror that reflects back to us what we think into it. God, the living one, the infinite one, is essentially neutral. It just shows up and responds to us according to our faith. And what do I have faith in? Do I have faith in love? Do I have faith in lack? Do I have faith in grace? Or do I have faith in violence and meanness? What do I have faith in? What do you have faith in today? How bad it is? Nothing can be done? We can't agree? Or there is a greater truth to be known. A spiritual solution to this challenge our culture, our society is facing right now. And I want to invite you into the notion that there is something different that we could be putting in front of the mirror right now that would help us learn from this course we have chosen and move into a greater way of being. You see, a young man walked into a school last Wednesday and murdered 17 people. The only miracle we need is to put love in front of the mirror. The only miracle we need is to be willing to be loving rather than right. Willing to anchor in love rather than fear. It would be amazing. It would be a marvel. It would be a miracle. Wouldn't it? If we could play in the realm of love rather than the realm of fear. If we could be present to God as love rather than hide in our smallness and our human condition and our helplessness. What if we stood up and said, no, I am going to be a beacon of love. I am going to love everything and everybody no matter what. And this is exactly what we've been talking about the last 2 weeks, all month long. We've been talking about the greatest commandment when Jesus was asked, what is the greatest of the commandments? And you know what? They were trying to trick him and make him wrong, but he loved them anyway, didn't he? And he said, the greatest of all the commandments is love God. And the second one is love your neighbor as yourself. God, you guys were listening. I love that. Thank you. That's so awesome. See, this is the greatest commandment. Love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And here's the trick. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself, even when you don't want to. Even when it's hard. Even when you're hurting. Even when you're in pain. Even when you don't understand. Love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Love your NRA neighbor. Love your left-wing liberal neighbor. Love your legislator neighbor. Love your pacifist neighbor. Love your neighbor you disagree with, even when you don't feel like it. That's aligning with the oneness of the universal presence. Anytime we are making anyone wrong, we are living in a realm of separation and duality, which is that human realm where we can't come up with a solution. So let's lift our consciousness to that realm of spiritual truth and oneness, because there and only there seems to be the solution. Love everybody, even when it's hard. Because I'm going to say to truly love is to see God in everything. To truly love is to see the beloved in everything. To truly love is to learn from the course we choose. To learn something different. To embrace that new way of being. Recognizing that the infinite runs to the edges of space. God is all there is. We live and move and breathe and have our being in that presence. The absolute innocence within all of its creation is at the core and the center of everyone, whether you agree with them in the worldly realm or not. Are you ready to set aside your petty disagreements? Because here's the thing, our little petty disagreements that we think don't fit the world, they're just little bits of violence. They're little tiny chunks of violence that don't seem to have a lot of effect necessarily, But they multiply and they multiply and they multiply and they create a culture where I was reading in the news last night, some cruise ship, like people were locking themselves in their rooms because it wasn't safe. Because people were being violent on the ship. What? All of the small ways in which we commit small violences on each other multiplies and grows until a man walks into a school in Florida and murders 17 people, and we're, I can't, there's nothing I can do. It's in Florida, it's a long ways away, and those darn legislators, whoever we blame for it. And I'm talking to me. Is anybody feeling a little scolded right now? I hope so, because I'm scolding me too. What are we putting in front of the mirror? To truly love is to see God in everything. To take responsibility for our part in perpetuating an environment of love on the planet. To love even when it's hard. And if you're like me, sometimes when I have a task to do or a test to take, I go to the hardest thing first. Do you do that? Let's get the hardest thing out of the way and then we'll skate along for the rest, right? So let's take the hardest one first. At least it's the hardest one for me. I've been struggling with this all week. The name is Nicholas Cruz. This is the young man who walked into a school and murdered 17 people. And we've kind of made this move in this evolution of this type of violence in our society toward not naming the perpetrators, haven't we? And I understand the rationale for that, and I have mostly agreed with it, actually, because let's not give them space. Does that make sense? And it made sense to me, but you know what? I'm thinking about it now a little bit differently because I'm thinking about it in the context of what is required of me to become more loving. And if I'm starting with the hardest thing in this situation, I'm going to start with, can I love Nicholas Cruz in spite of what he did? That feels like a tall order to me. How about you? And so I asked myself, would Jesus love Nicholas Cruz? Did Jesus tell us the greatest of all the commandments is love? Did Jesus tell us, greater things than these will you do? Do we in our teaching hold Jesus as the great example, not the great exception, but the great example for how we should walk in our lives? Can we take on a little bit doing what Jesus taught us to do, which is love no matter what? Even when it's hard, even when we disagree, even when we're in pain, even when we're angry, love no matter what. Because in the way that the universe always provides us with the perfect thing, except I left it on my desk. I saw something in Facebook this week, and it was a quote from a woman named Tara Brach, who I'd never heard of her before, but there was so much wisdom in here, and I won't get it exactly right, but it is essentially, you're walking through the forest, and you see a dog sitting at the base of a tree. And you start to walk up to the dog, and suddenly the dog growls and lunges at you, and at first you're angry, and you're afraid. And then you look and you realize this dog's leg is in a trap. And this dog is in pain. And this dog is hurting, and suddenly your compassion is activated. And suddenly your love is activated. Oh, poor baby, how can I help you? What if we were able to look at Nicholas Cruz and imagine what kind of a trap he must be in to engage in this kind of destructive, violent behavior? What is the trap? And I looked up a little bit about him. I didn't want to go too deep, but I looked up a little bit. He's autistic. His father died when he was young, and his mother died just last November. He's always been socially isolated at school. He's never had a place where he fit in. We let him down as a society. We did not provide him with what he needed. And he is stuck in a trap. And he lunged and he growled. And we are angry and fearful of him, are we not? But let's look behind the trap that he is in. I am not saying he is not to be held accountable for what he did. We must hold him accountable for what he did. Yes? And he will be held accountable for what he did. But you know what we do? We hold him accountable and forget to hold us accountable. We are complicit. And I'm not saying we pulled the trigger. And I'm not saying we committed murder. But we are in our own trap. Can you hear that? The trap of our false beliefs in duality and separation. And when something like this happens, we lunge and we growl and we want to hold him accountable and make somebody wrong, and then we go on with our lives as if there wasn't still a broken community and a broken school and broken hearts down in Florida or Las Vegas or. We must look at the trap. We must look at the spiritual solution. We must look at the absolute innocence of all, not to excuse, but to love, to fulfill the greatest of the commandments. Holding him accountable, but also holding us accountable, because life is a mirror that reflects back to us what we put into it. This could only be happening in our society if we are holding something that is unlike love up to the mirror. And I say that we are. And so we must love Nicholas Cruz. But we must also love ourselves. Because, my point here is not to blame and shame us. That's not the point, right? If we blame and shame us, we're building an even bigger trap. We must love us. The commandment is love your neighbor as yourself. We must love us anyway. Even though we have contributed to the trap, we must love ourselves, and we must hold ourselves accountable, and we must hold something different up to the mirror, and the something different that needs to go up to the mirror, the miracle we need, is love. No matter what, even when it's hard, even when we're mad, even when we're hurting, even when we disagree, because we are all the beloved incarnate. And so I want to invite you today to lift the conversation out of the realm of the human condition. Clearly, that's not working. And I don't care what your beliefs are in the human realm about the solutions or laws or gun control or not gun control or whatever. That does not matter. We can't deal with it anymore on that level. It's not working. So we lift the conversation out of the human realm and start asking ourselves questions like this. And others I'm sure you'll come up with. In the realm of what happened last Wednesday in Florida, how am I called to love more fully? How am I called to embody more love in my life? How am I called to take responsibility rather than blame someone else? What is love calling me to? As I consider what happened, as I feel the pain, as I grieve with a grieving community, what greater spiritual truth of unity and oneness am I being called to? What can I What can we learn from the course we have chosen? What can we learn? What is it that the universe, God, the infinite essence, the living one, would have us know about this situation and about the level of violence in our community in general? What can we learn from the course we have chosen? What does the greatest commandment mean to me? What does love God, love my neighbor as myself mean to me? And what does it mean for how I conduct my life? How is it Jesus would be the presence of love in this situation? Can I begin to duplicate that? We ask ourselves questions like, how can I be more loving today? How can I be more kind? How can I release others from my blame, the tyranny of my blame, and love them anyway? And then you know what happens? Right action in the realm of human affairs will simply unfold. You will do the right thing. And any opposition to whatever the right thing is for you will simply melt away. Because remember, the universe is spiritual. It's spiritual first. And as we anchor in the consciousness of love, any obstruction to love in the human realm will slowly fade away. Sometimes it will quickly fade away. Because God, the universal presence, is essentially neutral and responds to us according to our belief about it. Anchor in love. Put love in front of the mirror, and I guarantee you we will have a miracle. We will have a miracle. But it can't just be us in this room. We can start, yes? We have to be the great example for others. We have to talk about the power of love to heal any condition wherever we go. And when people start complaining about what happened and start blaming one person, the perpetrator, we have to say, you know, I've been thinking about that. And I wonder how it might have been different if we as a culture would have been the embodiment of divine spiritual love. I'm going to embody that as much as I can. I'm going to practice loving in spite of my fears, in spite of my anger, in spite of all of the worldly condition that says love isn't safe. I'm going to love anyway. I'm going to practice. I'm going to be the presence of love in the world. And so I want to invite you to practice with me right now. We're going to sing our song, There is Only One of Us. In your eyes, it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. The universe is that mirror that reflects back to us what we think into it. You are my reflection. How you show up to me tells me more about me than it does about you, doesn't it? I also want to release 17 beautiful souls from this earthly form, this realm of the human condition, with a sense of intention, a sense of blessing. I want us to practice being loving as we recognize these 17 souls and we sing to them our recognition of our oneness with all of them. Will you join me?
There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. There is only one of us. In your eyes it's me I see. There is only one of us. You are my reflection. There is only one. You are my reflection. There is only one.
For the sake of these 17 souls, I am asking you to commit to be an embodiment of love. Let us learn from the course that they have chosen, the sacrifice that they and their families have made. Let us make a choice for love today. Let us follow that greatest of the commandments. Love God, the God in all of us. Love your neighbor as yourself. Are you in? I'm in. And this road we commit to today may not be the easiest road, but I promise you, there is a promised land on the other side. It is a land of peace. It is a land of love. It is a land where we walk in spiritual truth. And so let's turn within and anchor this message and anchor this experience in the comfort, in the love of the infinite one, the living one. We call it God, God the good, God the infinite, God the all good, God the ultimate innocence. There is only one life. Its hands have stretched to the edges of the universe. That universal presence is right where we are. It is infinite, but it is oh so intimate. It is within. It is closer than our neck vein, nearer than our hands and feet, for we are created of it, in its image and likeness, perfect, whole, and complete right now. This is the spiritual truth of us. And as we are created in its image and likeness, we are created in the image and likeness of love. This is our true nature. Our true nature is love. And so let us release the shackles of blame and shame and guilt. Let us release the traps that keep us stuck in the past, and let us lift our consciousness into a greater way, a surer way, a more empowered and empowering way, the way of love. And let this love guide our steps, guide our thinking. Let us say yes to the miracle and put love first in our lives and allow that to simply be reflected everywhere we go. I am so grateful. I am so grateful for this turning point in our relationship with love. And I know that we move forth with joyful hearts, ready to do the work, ready to be present to all the good the universe has in store. And so it's with a grateful heart that I close this message, knowing that it has landed on open and willing hearts, knowing that we go forth to change the world with a spiritual principle, a spiritual solution. We go forth to make the world a better place for everyone. I am so grateful for it, and I let it be. And so it is. Amen.